Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show, where I'm joined by Rich Woodruff of the American Red Cross. And what a great opportunity to spend a little time with you as we come up on a really important day for the American Red Cross. And this is true not just here, we're talking everywhere, and that's the Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, it kind of officially kicks off the holiday giving season. It's really an initiative that's global. It puts everybody in the mindset of giving. People are in that mode anyway this time of year. So the Red Cross has a voice in that, and we have our own messaging that coincides with that theme.
Talk about that a little bit, some of that messaging and why this is important.
Well, it's important because it breaks down to very specific needs that people have in times of disaster. Right. And so we encourage people to give with that mindset, to give on behalf of somebody, to give a gift that represents what that gift would buy. I brought a couple of items here. Just to give you an example, this is really a very, very common giveaway with the Red Cross when we go take care of a family. It's a comfort kit. It's basically toiletries. Doesn't seem like much, but if you've lost everything and you're in a shelter, if you lost your home fire, it gives you a little bit of sense of dignity and just something to get cleaned up and feel better.
Yeah, I mean, just having your own, here, let me grab that for just a second. So just having your own toothbrush and comb, I mean, by itself, just get cleaned up a little bit after something like this can be a big deal. But yeah, all the, the basic needs right here.
Well, and you have them for men, for women. They're tailored for each of the needs, even for children. So we use these a lot. So, a $5 donation doesn't seem like much, but that buys 2 of these.
Wow.
And so when you're in a shelter and you've got hundreds of people, we want to make sure that this is one of the essentials that they have when they come in, because they may or may not have that.
Wow. Okay, $5 gets you 2 of those. That's impressive.
Yeah. And so again, it represents all donations count. You've probably seen these blankets. I mean, they're very commonly seen. A lot of the media, and of course, these to keep people comfortable if they're in a cot. We give them a blanket. $25 will pay for 5 of these. So again, very minimal cost. A lot of the stuff we get is donated or deeply discounted. So we need to cover the hard cost of some of the relief supplies when we go to a disaster, large or small.
Yeah, you guys are handing out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. But it's not just about, the disaster relief part of it. There's also, I mean, obviously the needs like just caring for yourself certainly are high, but caring for your mental, spirit, if you would, pretty difficult and pretty important.
I'm glad you touched on that, because that's a huge part. You have physical needs, the comfort and care of people, and the emotional needs.
Yeah.
There's always a traumatic factor. People that have lost everything, they need spiritual care or mental health care.
Yeah.
It's a very important part of what we do. Whether it's somebody that's been in a home fire or in a major hurricane, mental health is an important part of that. And we have Red Cross volunteers that are actually licensed and trained mental health workers that we use in situations like this. And of course, the biggest one on everyone's mind is unfortunately Las Vegas.
Yeah. Hard to imagine really what happened there. And for a lot of people, it's, this was a place where you only went to have fun.
Yeah.
And suddenly that has been sort of shattered a little bit. People's spirits certainly took a hit there, not to mention, obviously, people losing their lives.
Yeah.
This has been a source of real need for you guys. You went down there with the mental health crew to really help out.
We did. We set up a family assistance center in port of everything that was going on, as you can imagine. I mean, you had the coroner's office was there. We were basically that point of contact when people came into that assistance center to sort of shepherd them through that very painful process. So they met a Red Cross volunteer. They were there to listen. They were there to just comfort them and help, feed them, maybe if they needed a place to stay. A lot of people came in from out of town. So it wasn't just the victims, but of course the families of the victims.
People have to come and identify their family. That's got to be one of the most difficult moments in anyone's life.
Yes, and something that people may not realize as well, that the volunteers themselves need support, because we need to be there, we need to be strong for those families. And so the mental health is to, we need to take care of our own as well, because you can imagine the trauma that we go through trying to support these people as well, because you really feel their pain.
Yeah, this extends, well beyond, just people, as you said, people involved directly. It involves the police and fire, the first responders, hospital workers, reporters, with the news, media. you know, talking about some of those very difficult stories with people. There's a lot there. Everyone has some sort of you know, like they're paying the piper at some level.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that because it is so collaborative, and you saw that in the media. You saw the GoFundMe account the city had set up.
Yeah.
The original goal was $500,000. It exceeded at last count. It's still going on, over $10 million. So
wow.
We don't actively fundraise in mass casualty incidents.
Right.
We provide, of course, blood is an important part of that, but we kind of take a more reactive position with that messaging. People know that we're donor supported, but we don't actively solicit donations. But what we do is direct people to where those funds are being collected and distributed to families.
And making sure that it's with good, you know, a good organization where
yes.
you know you can count on it.
Yes, very credible. That's important because you do have a lot of people that do capitalize, unfortunately, on the brand. We did have some of that we had to mitigate on social media, so that's part of the situation you can get into.
Hard to wrap your head around how that can happen, why someone would take advantage, but certainly the Red Cross doing their part there. Let's talk, when we come back, take a quick break, come back and talk a little bit more about the mission of the Red Cross and how people can be part of that, of course, and so much more right after these messages. You're watching Park City Television. Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show, where we continue our conversation with Rich Woodruff of the American Red Cross. And certainly this is such an important discussion, as there have been simply so many issues this year that have involved the Red Cross's assistance. I mean, we talk hurricanes, flooding, fire, shootings, so much. This has been one of the most difficult years I can recall. Isn't this got to be on the top of the list, isn't it?
Well, it was pretty amazing when you saw the back-to-back nature of it. I mean, I say fire and rain, right? You had all of a sudden these deadliest wildfires in U.S. history up in Northern California. So you have that going on. You still have hurricane relief going on. You've got the Virgin Islands. You've got Puerto Rico. Oh, and then there's this little earthquake in Mexico City.
Right.
And people forget we're worldwide in our affiliation. So yeah, it was pretty much unprecedented, and it just was
nonstop. I mean, you've been traveling all over. Tell us a little bit about where you've been.
Well, my original deployment was to Texas, and the footprint of Hurricane Harvey was massive. So we had people in Houston, Corpus Christi, Beaumont, even Austin, in a lot of staging areas. So we had about 4,000 volunteers to take care of that situation. I deployed to the Houston area, and then I was immediately sent up to Beaumont, because what I do is public affairs, public relations.
Right.
So we had a lot of media attention, but you see firsthand the devastation that you can't really get the grasp of with media coverage. It's huge.
Yeah,
huge.
Once you're really on the ground, things look a lot different, don't they?
Yeah, you start driving through neighborhoods and you just see these debris piles. It's kind of surreal when you see the extent of the damage, the thousands and thousands of homes wiped out.
Wow.
Yeah.
The American Red Cross is able to do quite a little bit with what they're offered from the public. When the public reaches out with funding, that goes directly to relief.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we are one of the more efficient nonprofits. Our rating with nonprofit charities is extremely high. 91 cents of every dollar is invested directly into humanitarian services and programs. So we're very lean and mean. We're 95% volunteer driven. So a lot of the jobs that we don't have to pay salaries and lots of big overhead. So so when you make a donation to the Red Cross, that dollar goes a long way.
When we discuss the kind of the scope of all these things, what stands out, I guess, to you this year? What were some of the lessons learned, the things that the American Red Cross thinks about as they move forward in their mission?
Disasters by nature are disasters for a reason. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of collaboration that needs to happen, and we can't do it all. We're just one small piece of that puzzle. You look at something like a Harvey, and you look at FEMA, emergency services, rescue, National Guard, huge operation. So yeah, there are missteps along the way. We don't always get it right, and we admit that. And every organization has those. Yeah. So what we do is we learn from that. You look at from Katrina on, we go through these, and we do a post event, we call it a hot wash, in
Yeah.
our world. So you understand, okay, what could we have done better, and so we learn.
An awful lot of the time this involves, well, we just need more people. We need more volunteers, right?
More volunteers and more efficient distribution of them. A lot of times you have a deficiency in, say, damage assessment
Sure.
or mental health, and so you've got to move people. You've got emergency response vehicles. We got hundreds of those.
Yeah.
So where do they come from? The logistics of something of the magnitude of those hurricanes is pretty significant. So there's a lot going on.
So lastly, volunteering and certainly giving blood.
Yes.
Critical for everyday people.
I call it the trifecta of our messaging: give money, give time, give blood, because that's really the Red Cross mission in a nutshell. Everything revolves around those three engagement opportunities.
Rich, we sure appreciate you as always.
Thanks,
if people
Joe.
want to do more of that, if they want to give their time and their money, where do they go? And their blood?
RedCross.org for the financial and volunteer, RedCrossBlood.org for blood donations. And there's a lot of those going on this time of year too, because there's a critical shortage in the wintertime.
Yeah, especially if you have a business, consider doing a blood drive. That makes sure that the American Red Cross gets the blood they need, because remember, that blood doesn't hold for long, and there's a need every day for blood in this country due to not just natural disasters, but crashes and injuries and all kinds of things, especially through the holidays. So you can help save a life by helping the Red Cross. We'll be back with more right here on the Mountain Morning Show as we wrap up this hour and this day right after these messages.